So Brett, how's life been as a workaholic?
Uh, I don't know that I've ever not struggled with that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've always just figured like there was something else I could do or a little bit of like self-imposed guilt like am I doing enough?
Hmm. Where? All right, let's unpack that. Where do you think that guilt came from?
My dad my dad worked hard,
Okay.
but he also made time for us. I think a little bit of it came from when I was young and early in our marriage. We had two toddlers, and I started this software company with some friends, and I like to say the first round of funding for those things is the 3F round: friends, family, and fools. And but the middle F in there,
Friends or family are the fools.
well, yeah. In this case, they all were. But yeah, that middle F is family, and so there's family money invested. My dad invested, and I had some friends that invested, and so, long story short, the company failed. So it like, did I work hard enough? Now I know intellectually I worked hard enough. Like,
Yeah.
I know I worked hard enough, and but it got really out of whack then. Hopefully I've been better since then, but I remember we were like a year into the business, and I was traveling a ton, and we were beginning to really get some traction. We did like $1 million in sales one year, and I was had another last minute business trip to go on. We got two toddlers at home. I remember calling my wife and saying, "Honey, I'm really sorry, but I've got to go on this trip, and I've got to leave tomorrow afternoon, and I'm trying to sell her on why it's a good thing that I'm going on this trip so I can get this big deal." And she sort of cuts me off, and she just says, "That's okay. It's easier when you're not here."
Oh,
And I was like, "What?" Like smack him in the face with a wet fish.
that's like her saying, "It's okay, I like you fat."
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
what do you mean?
So I got home, and I'm like, it's exactly what I said. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean it's easier when I'm not here? And she said, "Look, like, you wake up in the morning, you're out of the house before the kids get up. You often don't come home until after they're already in bed. When you are home, you're only thinking about work,
Mm.
and you're grumpy, you're exhausted, and the kids hardly know you. And the only time we have a good conversation is when you're at 1,000 miles away in a hotel. Sometime the kids are in bed and we talk on the phone at 10 o'clock at night. So,
Yeah.
like, I get it. You're trying to build a company, and
But
just go on. We're fine. And we're fine is
you were heading for divorce down the future, man,
oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. And so,
or at least a dead marriage that felt like you should, something.
yeah.
Like that. If you'd have been like, well, okay, that was a call to action.
Well, it's just the price we need to pay right now.
Yeah, exactly.
The Lord is gracious and merciful, because what happened is, as I'm like realizing that I'm really screwing this up, he did a couple of different things. The first thing he did was he had a friend of mine call me in church. Our wives were in a small group together. So my friend called me and said, "Hey, our wives are in this small group. I think we should get the husbands in a small group too, like, just to protect ourselves, if nothing else. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're talking about us." And so I got into this group with these guys, and we read the book, The Man in the Mirror. And so I'm reading this book, and the first couple chapters are like leading an unexamined life and the rat race. Those are the first two chapters. And I'm like, well, this book's about me,
Yep.
And then the third chapter is, are you a cultural Christian or a biblical Christian? And keep in mind, like, I'm working my butt off during the week, and then I'm rushing home, and we're going to a big church that we're super involved in, and we're doing children's ministry. So I'm ministering to other people's kids on the weekends, and then abandoning my family to go build my career and my company, and then coming home and ministering to other people's kids on the weekend again. I mean, it's just like, and you're in the middle of it, you don't see any of that, but but it was really crazy. So I get in this group, and we start talking about these things, and And then the company starts failing. The market tanked in the first quarter of 2000. That's
This is the .com burst kind of
all the .com bubble burst. And so those two things were both acts of mercy for me, that my friend would call and say, hey, let's get into a men's group where we can really be convicted about how bad a job you're doing as a husband and father. And let's also take your company away from you. And so over the course of the year 2000, like my company starts going in the toilet, and my marriage and my spiritual life started getting, we went to counseling, got some things worked out. It wasn't all me. That was such a relief.
Yeah.
That it wasn't all me.
But you being willing to talk about you,
makes
it easier for your wife to talk about herself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was so leading through humility.
It was so funny. I remember the counseling appointment. We're sitting in this guy's office, and she had said, she had been going to counseling. She's like, I really need you to come with me. We got to work through some of this stuff. And I said, absolutely, honey. I want to do that. And so we're sitting in the office, and we start talking about some stuff that had happened. And then he looks at my wife and he goes, well, I don't blame him. And she's like, what? And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, look, like the way you've been acting is ridiculous. It's sinful, and you shouldn't be doing those things. But I understand why you did those things. And so it's, it is always a two-way street.
Sure.
But anyway, so I called my wife one night. I remember, in the middle of 2000, the market, our company's going down the toilet. My men's group met on Tuesday nights. I called my wife on a Tuesday afternoon, and I said, honey, I'm not going to go to my group tonight. I'm exhausted. I'm weary. Something else had probably happened that day. And she said on the phone, that's when you need these guys the most. So go to your group.
Yeah.
You've been a much better husband since you've been going to the group. I want you to go to the group. We'll be here when you get here.
Yeah.
It's okay. Go to your group. You do your guys. And so, taking, being willing to even invest in my spiritual life, invest in some relationships with guys, it made me a better husband. It made me a better dad. It helped me get my life in balance. And interestingly, every single guy in the group was struggling just like I was with something.
Yeah, everybody is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so having those guys to go through that with.
It's funny you said, because I've started to say lately, it's like we believe in total depravity until we actually see it.
For everybody else. So yeah, I believe in it for everybody else.
Or it's like that thing we had before we
Yeah.
accepted Christ.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of a soft pedal depravity. And it's like, no, I'll one up you. I had an audio recording of me acting like you were talking about.
Oh.
Because part of my life, going back over a decade, was making videos, YouTube and stuff. And I had there were two closets. There were his and hers closet in this house. And there was a little his closet, which was tiny, because he had 4 outfits and 1 suit, But hers is big and long. And so I just turned mine into a little studio. Yeah. And I put a little chair in there, and the clothes made it damp enough that I could go in there. And I was
and dampen the noise.
Yeah. Because you don't want any echo.
Yeah, or moldy clothes.
Or moldy clothes.
Yeah,
exactly right. But I remember my kids were home, wife was home, and I was in that stress moment that you're talking about. Yeah, I had recording on.
Oh, I don't know it's coming, but I know it's coming.
It's super. It was easily the most humbling, and one of the most humbling experiences ever. Is I walked out there in my head. I walked out there and I said, "Hey, can y'all keep it down? You're kind of screaming, and it can hear on the mic." And I went back in. And I kept recording my little stupid lecture. At the next day, when I was going through the audio file and recording it, I heard that moment, and it was not a pleasant experience, and about as humbling as you get, because
So you didn't go out there and say, "Dear family, loves of my life,
no,
children I'm called to protect."
I had all the intensity of this. What I'm doing is very important. And I had this shotgun voice that can sound very boomy, and it could be heard. And
wow,
about as embarrassing as you get. I kept that recording for a while.
That's a mercy too.
That's a mercy.
It's a terrible mercy.
Severe mercy, as Lewis called it. Yeah. And it's terrible. But
see, that's what happens when you go to college in England. You learn the right way to quote Lewis, and that it's Lewis.
And it's just, well, I taught a course on C.S. Lewis, so I have a cheat sheet in my head.
Feel a little bit better.
That's right. but it was a very humbling experience because like I wonder what I learned in that moment was I wonder if a lot of guys think they're coming across nice. Oh, they are, and they're not, because they always say stress is the silent killer. Like you don't quite. Yeah. It's not like having a headache or a fever. Yeah. It's just kind of palpitating in there, and there is a sense in which I just thought I was. I'm like 9 times out of 10, I'm usually the one of the most easygoing guys you ever meet. But here I was being a complete tool to my kids who were pre elementary school. Like, what are they going to know how to do? Of course they're going to make this. Right. And they were trying. And maybe I should have picked something else. But I have that moment, and there's a dozen or so other ones where I'm like, what are you thinking? Why is this so important to you? And the other factor is I'm not a workaholic. I get by on a lot of my talent, and then I fill in that talent with hard work. Yeah. I've never had to pull 80-hour work weeks to get what I need to done. Even though I was in my PhD, I've always been like, okay, I can get this done in the appropriate amount of hours. But what I didn't realize is from my 20s, when I was probably more of a slacker in seminary, frankly, to when I was becoming a professor, the pressure of the man I'm supposed to be was driving me. Yeah. And I had to keep doing these things that would make me feel like I had finally arrived. And that desire to arrive, I think, gets men in their 20s and 30s when they're in their builder career phase. Yeah. And something clicks where you're going, I have to do this. And there's a built-in or else that just keeps trailing. Because you don't know what the or else is. Right. Or what. Yeah. That's like what if I hadn't finished that video on time, what would have been the problem? Nothing. Right. But there's this or else I have to built in there. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but every guy knows this.
You know, I honestly, I think this is like the evil one, like working on our minds. You know, when you have an irrational thought that has no basis in reality, and you know it intellectually, and yet you still react in a way that's irrational. Like that's a spiritual thing. Right? Something like that can't just be pure. Like you're not like suddenly psychotic in one part of your brain and the rest of your brain is standing there observing you. Like there has to be some outside force.
There has to be a deep temptation that's working on the insecurity of who you are. Yeah. And I have become increasingly convinced that in the transition from the greatest generation, self-called, and they're a great generation, but okay, also the most humble generation to call themselves the greatest generation. But you go from that, which is a Depression era, World War era, right? Very frugal, very hardworking. They come in and they raise the boomers. Boomers did not like that experience, having them as their parents all the time. Yeah. And so what's happened is boomers who raised us, by and large, were less programmatic, or at least in my case, he wasn't going to give me this is how to live like a man set of rules. He wanted me to just be happy, healthy, and be my own man. But as I was growing up, there is something missing where no one eventually, there's no bar mitzvah for white guys where you go, hey, you've arrived as a man now. Right.
There's no bar mitzvah for most guys.
For most guys, yeah. And there's no, well, am I a man now? And so adolescence extends on, and then now you're supposed to act like an adult. But you start looking for those, like, maybe I'm supposed to work really hard and get ahead, and maybe if I get there. But you're right, the evil one is saying, in my case, you're an imposter, you don't belong here.
And you just work your butt off to disprove that.
Yeah. And everyone thinks that. I think probably back in those days, people thought I was Mr. Overachiever. No, I was Mr. I don't belong here, so I have to make it work. Right. But what do you sacrifice in that situation? Right. Sacrifice your family and your kids. Right. And I think that's the existential reality for people whenever we talk about work-life balance. Yes. Because it's not about balance. It's about, this is easily the place where sin and temptation and all these evil things can get involved and can completely skew where you're going. So like you think, I need to provide for my family, and then your family never sees you, or when you are home, like in our cases, you're not the person that they want.
Right. Right.
And so you just pull away and you keep, and then we have this rise of the gray divorces. These guys who work their whole life to retire at 60 and play golf and go on vacation with their wife. Now their wife hates them.
Right.
You know, resentful at least because that you didn't include her in any part of your life.
Right.
Your kids are gone. They don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're rich, but you got nothing.
You know, this is good. I mean, we talked about like it's not a work-life balance issue. It's a balance issue. I think it might even also be it's an identity issue. So you're choosing like who do I want to be? When I was in the throes, you know, I'm 30, or in my early 30s. You know, I got a software company. You know, every
You have some of your hair still, probably.
yeah, not all my hair, but like I used to read Inc. magazine every month. Inc. magazine would come out, and on the cover,
I remember.
and the cover of Inc. magazine for several years around this time, was a software company entrepreneur who looked like me. Sometimes female, but usually a young, you know, late 20s, early 30s guy.
Yeah.
And the story was inevitably he sacrificed everything to build this company.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, well, when I'm reading this magazine, I'm like, I literally remember thinking, I want to be on the cover of Inc. magazine.
Yeah.
Not I want to be the best dad I can be.
Yep.
Not I want to be the best husband I can be. Not I want to honor God with my whole life.
Yeah.
But I want to be on the cover of Inc. magazine. That's my identity.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're going to get caught up in your identity being what you do, because it is how we're wired. God put Adam in the garden to work it.
To work.
You know,
Pre-sin,
pre-fall, Adam had a job.
Yep.
You know, and that's who he was. He was the gardener.
Imagine gardening without sin.
Oh, imagine how good that soil was.
How much yard work we put up.
Right, like drop a seed and poof.
No weeds anywhere.
Yeah, the hardest thing is coming up with a name for the hippopotamus. You know? But like if that becomes your identity, what you do, because you know that's corruption. I think of our original wiring, and instead of like decide like now, I think what do I want to be, not what do I want to do.
Yeah.
And so if I want to be a great dad, if I want to be a great husband, right now I want to be the best grandpa I can be.
Yeah.
You know, 1 year old in a few weeks here.
Yeah.
First grandson. I know it's hard to believe, but, you know, who I want to be is way more important than what I want to do.
Yeah. And
I mean, you have a purpose, but
yeah,
your identity is more important.
Identity is more important. And what I keep telling my kids now is, particularly for my sons, because I've always sensed a lot of self-confidence in my daughter. If I do check in on that, and I mean, my goodness, she's about to be 17. She's got her life more together than I did at 24, 25. So
maybe than now.
Yeah. And I credit her mom in a large portion for that, because her mom and her like have that, and she and I have a great relationship, but I could tell like mom did a lot of heavy lifting with mother-daughter and like talking about boys, talking about dating, talking about, she started dating somebody recently, and I was like, I told her, I texted her, I said, you know, I'm really proud that you just seem to date with a purpose. I said, you don't seem to just get a crush and just start dating a guy. She goes, yeah, I don't really see any need to do that. I want to do things with purpose.
Good for her.
Yeah, good for her, but where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, obviously it came from mom and me, but I don't remember being that way at her age. I was just listening to Guns N' Roses, wanting to play guitar all day. Like that was the extent of my.
And they look so terrible now.
Oh, they're so old.
You know, it's funny when my daughter was 14, 15, and she wanted to date, and I said, she said, Daddy, I want to date. And I said, well, I have a rule. You can go out on a date, but I get to talk to the boy first for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And at first she's like, that's not happening. I'm like, well, nope.
Then it's not happening for you either.
No problem. So this went on for like a year. Daddy, I really like this guy. I want to go on a date with him. I'm like, fine, bring him over. I want to talk to him. And I'm not going to do that, Dad. You're going to embarrass me. I said, honestly, I'm not going to embarrass you. I want to talk to him. So finally, she's 15 years old, and she again, Daddy, I want to go on a date with this guy. I'm like, great. You know the deal. The deal has not changed. And so she's like, you know that 15-year-old girl thing with the bold eyes.
Oh yeah.
And I go, And she goes,
it's more than 15 years.
Yeah.
It's the whole.
yeah. She goes, what are you going to say to him? It's the first time she ever asked me that.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to say to him. Well, you've never asked me before. And I said, I'm going to say to him that when the day you were born, God gave you to me to take care of and to provide for and protect you, to keep you safe. And that when I let him walk out the door with you, all of those responsibilities that God gave to me, I'm putting in his hands while you're gone.
Brett.
And that I expect him to bring you back in exactly the same state that you leave in.
Yeah.
That he protects you, that he takes care of you, it keeps you safe, and then he brings you back.
Yeah.
And she went, okay, you can tell that.
That's a very sanctified version of what I say, which is
if you hurt my daughter, I will kill you.
I quote the movie Clueless. It's like
I didn't see that.
This guy walks in and he's going to date his daughter, and he goes, I have a 44 and a shovel. I'm sure no one will miss you if anything happens to her.
Yeah.
And then she just walks off.
Yeah. There's a video going on of 50 Cent. Have you seen that?
Oh.
There's a video going on. I think it's in a movie. And this boy comes over to pick up this guy's daughter. It's 50 Cent playing the character.
Okay.
And the 50 Cent goes, hey, let me talk at you for a minute. And they walk out into the garage, and he's got all of his friends there.
Oh, yes.
They're all like lifting weights, and he gives them a little speech. You take care of my girl.
Take
right?
care of my girl.
And
I see. Clearly, our parenting styles are different, because I sent my daughter a link to Bad Boys. Have you seen that?
Oh, you got the
Well, Will Smith, whatever his name is.
Martin
Martin
Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence. Martin Short's
Totally different.
But where Will Smith and Martin Lawrence walk up, and this boy's there to pick him up, and it's a not safe for work clip. I said that to my daughter. I said, this is what you can expect from your first boyfriend. She goes, no. And it's interesting as a dad, I just pre-programmed her to think I was going to be over the top embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then when I actually met the boy, I was like, hey, I did what you did. I said, hey, just, you know what to do.
Yeah.
And he was a good kid. He's raised by good parents.
Yeah.
But
our girls want that from us.
they do want that.
I mean, they absolutely want us to go psycho on anybody that would even think about it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've said it this way to my daughter before, which is like, not only am I to protect you, but you to protect me. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, if you do something silly and put yourself in situations with terrible people and something happens to you, I will murder somebody and see red. And this is all just teasing her. She's like, okay. I'm like, not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
But kind
But
of.
maybe.
But maybe. I don't know what'll happen.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's like a dark humor with your daughter about it that really works.
Yeah.
But back to the question of work-life balance, is we bring this up because what we're trying to say is, hey, if you don't have your self-confidence in the who am I built
Right.
by the time you become a young adult, then you get into this season where what I've seen are older folks, my age, your age and up, which are, we're going to work like a dog until we're 65, and then we're going to hopefully be rich by then, and we can enjoy our life.
Right.
And what many folks are finding or have found is if you do that, you're going to get to 65 and your wife and kids don't want to talk to you.
Right.
And you're too old probably to go enjoy all that stuff.
Well, they just don't know you.
They don't know you.
You've sacrificed your relationship with them.
And usually those guys don't stop working anyway. They say they're going to stop, but they don't.
Yeah.
And then you have younger folks, people under our age, who saw that in a bit trending the opposite.
Right.
Which is, I don't have to work. I don't need to really focus on career. I can do like, what do they call it? Fragmented work, where you work a couple of part-time jobs.
Yeah, fractional
work.
Yeah.
Which I'll be honest, pick a side, pick that side where you're actually like living your life, like enjoying your friends and not making work.
If you can pay your bills.
If you can pay your bills. I shudder a bit at what they're going to be like when they get to 65, if they haven't started things like savings and other types of investments and growth of career and the trajectory. However, the challenge for both is, who are you?
Yeah.
And I think boomers thought who I am is my success and my money.
Right.
And they found out over time that's not what defines you. What I worry about with young folks is they're going, well, I don't want to be like that, so you just do the opposite, but you still haven't necessarily discovered who you are.
Well, it's almost like my freedom is my identity.
Correct.
Like the fact that I don't have any.
You got to have the good vibes.
I got to, the least amount of obligations possible. That's not really a life either. That's not that. Then you have no purpose.
And you're all in younger folks, I know they break themselves into these little micro communities where like this is my tribe. I'm a gamer, so I watch gamer stuff and play games, or I love sports, and you like get into that world.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're enjoying things and you're having a life, but they're also the people that are enjoying their life very often find themselves marrying later, having kids later, all the things that actually stabilize you. And if you haven't learned your purpose beforehand, that's the crucible where you're going to learn it.
Yeah.
Is like get married and have kids, and you'll find out exactly who you are pretty quick.
Yeah.
Most of us are selfish, loner. I'll do what I want. Don't tell me what to do, guys.
Yeah.
And we get married, and your wife's like, "Oh, that's not how we're living our life."
Yeah.
And your kids have demands on you, and suddenly you got to sacrifice like Christ did for the church.
Yeah.
And you realize that you're actually kind of a putz.
Yeah.
Or that you lose your voice because your stupid video recording gets interrupted.
Right.
This kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the challenge, I think, is ironically not balancing work and life, but finding out what kind of life you want to live.
Yeah.
Because work is part of your calling. Having a good life and a good family is part of your calling.
Right.
It's not a seesaw. You're not just going to hit the middle and be like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It's rather, why are you working? And what's the most important thing in your life? And if you're working hard to achieve something so that later in life you're more stable and you can provide for college and other things in life, great. Or if you have a vision, of a business you want to start, great. But if it's just about the grind to get to somewhere, or it's just about having a positive, happy, fulfilled life now, and work can wait, none of this to me seems to be the answer.
Yeah. Well, you in either case, you're kind of sacrificing your kids on that altar, right? You're
not having them.
You're either not having them, and we were made to. I mean, most of us got calls to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. But or you were working so hard when you did have kids that you didn't really engage with them. You didn't invest in them intentionally. You went on the 1 week vacation every year, and that was the most time they ever got with you.
Yeah.
And now you're 60, like you said, now you're 65 or 70, and they don't really know you. They're not really interested in, like, if you're 65, 70, you have grandkids, your kids aren't really interested in you engaging in your grandkids' lives that much.
Nope. And they're not looking to you for advice because they don't think you have.
Right. Because you didn't really engage when you were parents.
It's a known thing. I saw some statistics on this that older folks that say 65 and older now have a strong desire to have their opinion matter. I mean, you see this in politics. I mean, every gray hair on Facebook telling you what to believe and what to think. Or, we had this little bit in our family dynamic where the grandparents on both sides wanted to tell us how to live our lives. And we were both like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that we disrespected. It's just after many years of learned independence, you're not going to get that back suddenly.
Right.
And you've basically taught them to be loners.
Yeah.
Because you haven't taught them to live like a family and to have that dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think here's one thing I do think I wish dads did more of. When you sacrifice something, I honestly think it's an important thing that you actually say it out loud to your family and be like, hey guys, everything in me says I need to go work on this, but I know that that's not what's important. You guys are.
Yeah.
And I'll do that later.
Yeah.
And the more you can kind of say those things out loud, you're almost saying them to yourself.
Yeah.
But it gives a sort of a sense in which your kids can hold you accountable. Now, I remember I had a pastor friend, this is 20 years ago. He was older than me, he was a mentor. And he had a rule, because pastors are notoriously coming home late and somebody called and stuff. He had a rule, he had only boys. If he said he'd be home and he didn't, he'd have to do 50 push-ups while his boys like trash talking. And he'd get home and they'd be like, 50, get down. And he said it was a dark, sort of humorous, a little joking, but he let them know I will sometimes have to be late.
Yeah.
I can't be perfect.
Yeah.
But we'll make it fun, and you guys will hold me accountable with push-ups. if I don't get it done.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I don't need to do any push-ups, but we can find other ways of saying like hold my feet to the fire.
Yeah.
Like call me out. Like I don't think we let our families call us out enough.
Yeah, I think most guys get angry when they get called out.
Oh, honestly.
So they're gonna. Nobody's ever gonna do it. You just end up with this sort of silent détente of tolerating.
Tolerate for now.
Yeah, tolerating a relationship that's not what it should be or what it could be. Yeah, I see guys like, I see guys who don't make good decisions when it comes to like figuring out how to figure out how to prioritize the different responsibilities they have, because you do have responsibility to work. You have responsibility to pay the bills.
Provision is
mortgage.
Yeah,
you can't say to the mortgage company, I really need to spend more time with my family this month, so
you wish
I didn't work and I didn't make as much, so my bill needs to go down. But I think that if the Ephesians 5 verse 5:25, husbands love your wives like Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Yeah,
and I think we have to ask the question as men, like, what are we willing to give up for our family? And like, I've talked to guys like, yeah, I got this great job offer, 25% more money, but I'm going to be gone 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, well, is that really worth it?
Is it worth it? Yeah.
For you to be gone half the time. I mean, some guy, you in the military or there are cases where you don't really have as much control over that as you'd like.
Sure.
But for the most part, you could choose to make a little bit less and be a little bit more available.
Yeah.
And your family would probably not care.
It's interesting. When I was in seminary, there was a guy, good friend at the time. We were still Facebook friends. I haven't caught up with him in a while, but he was very smart.
And seminary back in the day, you always had 95% of the student body heading into some form of vocational ministry. And then there was the nerds, the 5% of us that felt called to teach and do a PhD. And I remember we were always together because we found each other and we played Settlers of Catan at night. Most of us were unmarried. And we would hang out with the professors. They were good at shepherding you towards PhD work. There was one guy that was in our group, and he was already married. And I believe he had kids, but maybe not. But anyway, he was already married. And I remember he was chasing this dream of a PhD this whole time he was there. And he just somehow clued in that his wife was tolerating, but not fully. She didn't have the same vision.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all hanging out one time playing a game, and he said, "Well, guys, because I think I'm not doing a PhD." And we're like, "Oh, we were fine." Well, oh, really? What's wrong? And we thought something was up. And he goes, "Well, I saw my wife's face one day, and I walked up to her and I said, I'm sensing from you that this is not a us vision. This is a me want." And he said, "I'm willing to lay that down if it means you and I find a better vision for something that we can do together."
Wow.
And she looked at him and she said, I think they'd been married more than 5 years. So we were still young, but they had been together a while. And she said, "I've never felt more loved than when you told me that." Wow. And that there was something about, I want this and I would really try for it, but I sense that it's not right for us, and especially for you. And as far as I know, he's been in vocational ministry his whole life and happy as can be. And,
yeah.
They're still married. And there's something about that where you go, I want this, but I'll say no.
Yeah.
That tells your wife you matter more than, and your kids, that it doesn't,
right.
You matter more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can, I feel like there's guys that would hear that and go, what a crazy sacrifice that she asked him to make. And
which she didn't. That's what's interesting.
Well, yeah. But I mean,
but let's say she did.
But I mean, just like this idea that, sort of in this age of like your own truth and, being the best version of yourself and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like some people would look at that and go, well, that woman was holding him back, or
he
gave up his dream, like this romantic movie version of how life works.
Yeah.
As if some aspiration that you have is the most important thing in your life.
Right.
Rather than the relationships that you have, rather than living out what God called you to be, which is first a husband and father. And, And he's not going to give you a vocational calling that's going to pull you away from your
No.
family.
That's a great line.
He's absolutely not going to.
There is no vocation that should destroy your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Not that the Lord gives you.
Yeah. Not the Lord gives you. Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.